Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for our second regular session of this administration. I'll call this meeting to order, and I get the privilege this evening to give the invocation. And if you'd please stand, and then we're going to do the pledge of the flag. I'm a little rusty. Our loving God, help us remember the birth of Jesus. Help us close the door of hate, to find the lost, to heal those broken in spirit, to feed the hungry, to release the oppressed, to rebuild nations, and to bring peace among all peoples, and to open the door of love all over the world. Help bring wisdom to this body so that we may serve those who expect us to do the right thing every time. Help us to govern with a kind heart and an open mind. Help us to make the decisions that will lead our city forward and benefit all citizens. Most of all, dear God, help us to lead by example and guide us with your wisdom in all things. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of new business is the adoption of our rules and procedures that we have all agreed to. Can I get someone to read the motion, please?
Move the adoption, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So few quick announcements. We'll be following the rules of procedure that we just adopted. If you have a cell phone or an electronic device, please mute it. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule for next year is January 10th, 17th, and 24th are all work sessions. And then January 31st is a regular session at 7 p.m. And the work sessions are at 4 p.m. We have a guest this evening, and I have a certificate of appreciation to Michael Barnhart. Can I get Michael to come up? I'll meet you halfway. Okay, well, we're here tonight to present this certificate of appreciation to Mike Barnhart and the Hagerstown Kodiaks for all your work over at the Hagerstown Sports Complex. And it reads, whereas the city of Hagerstown would like to welcome the Hagerstown Kodiaks, a sled hockey team comprised of individuals between the ages of 5 and 52. Well, I'm too old for that. To the Hagerstown Ice and Sports Complex located at Fairgrounds Park in Hagerstown, Maryland. And whereas sled hockey is a team sport which allows individuals with disabilities and injuries to play a competitive sport on ice. And whereas Mike Barnhart, the team manager, worked to secure a grant from the Community Foundation of Washington County. This grant, along with a generous gift from an anonymous benefactor, provided the funds necessary to purchase ice sleds and equipment for all participants. Now therefore be it resolved that the support of the City Council, I, Robert E. Brucci II, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby recognize and thank Mike Barnhart for his hard work and dedication to bringing sled hockey, the first program of its kind in the immediate four-state region, to the Hagerstown Ice and Sports Complex. We also welcome the Hagerstown Kodiaks and wish them a fun and fantastic season.
Thank you very much.
You want to say a few words?
Just thank you, and thank you for the ongoing support of everybody here as well. I'd like to thank you for all your support.
Sure.
And you're not too old.
My wife would argue that point, okay?
I've had some out there older than 52, so, and they are trying, so.
Well, I gotta make sure I get a schedule when I come over and
Yeah,
check this out.
sure.
Okay? I appreciate
Not a
that.
problem. Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Donna.
Nothing on the public comments, I mean, on the.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could we comment?
Sure, yes, go right ahead.
Mike, I just wanted to say thank you for what you have done to improve the quality of life here in Hagerstown and Washington County. I'm sure you've given hundreds and hundreds of hours to the project that you're involved in, the skating rink, and we really appreciate that. In a way, you helped put Hagerstown on the map by what you've done, and we appreciate that too. And what you've done is really a standout thing, and thank you.
Can't see you from here, but I thank you. I'm legally blind.
Thank you,
I see
Mike.
people, that's it.
Thank you.
That was Councilmember Munson.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to citizen comments. We only have one individual who signed up, but that doesn't mean anything. If you're here and you wish to speak, you're more than welcome to speak. Mark Gamerman.
Well, good evening. My name's Mark Gamberman. I'm a chiropractor here in town, and we moved our business downtown to 89 West Lee Street. September 1st is when we opened, and I keep hearing things in the news and little burps about the Hagerstown Cultural Trail being kind of a waste, and I think you needed to hear that one of the reasons we moved down there was because of it. We started shopping in September because one of my partners, May Gray here, is a massage therapist. She'll be finishing her acupuncture program. We needed more space, and a real estate friend started showing us around all the usual haunts that when I would get kind of upset with our current places we would look around at. And when we came down to Lee Street, it was a nice spot, and as we walked outside, we heard some rumor about this trail that was being built. And as we walked out, we saw the surveyors putting the markers in the ground right then. And that's when Mr. Barr showed us the map and the picture. And we thought, does anybody else know about this? Because this is really going to be kind of cool. And that kind of signed us up. And we watched it being built from then up. And so we're part of the downtown movement. We're the first business that moved down there because of the Hagerstown Cultural Trail. And I want to thank you for building it for us, as far as I can tell. And you paved the street for us, too, which was really nice, too. We appreciated all of that. So I didn't know if you had any questions or comments. And, of course, Mr. Tissue's been a big help to us with talking about it. And we saw all the pictures of the new things that are coming up. And we decided, since we're part of the downtown, that we needed to sponsor some of the artwork that's going on down there, too. So we're part of it. I know that other businesses will follow at some point. But we've planted our flag, and we're there.
Great.
Very happily there.
Very happily there. Crazily happy there. We make cookies on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because we have a kitchen there, too.
All right.
And I would just say it is a real asset to downtown to have you and Amy, Mark. It's a real pleasure, and we're very lucky and happy that you came down there.
I'm glad to be back. I was down on Antietam Street for 21 years, and I'm not scared. This city's not a big deal to me. And when we moved out to Longmeadow, it's kind of sad to leave the city, but we're glad to be back part of the downtown. My son's a student at Barbara Ingram. You know, we're there. This is part of it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, too. Hopefully that'll help inspire some other people to follow in your footsteps.
Good.
Well, I know Dr. Gammerman is my doctor, what, for
That's a
20,
HIPAA violation.
21 years now, since college, and All I'll say is thank you for moving further or closer to the south end, so it's a lot easier and a lot quicker for me to get there as I get older.
That was a part of our decision making too. We decided one was closer to your house.
Well, good, thank you.
Well, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, there is nobody else signed up, but if anybody else wishes to speak, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on. Alex, we have a public hearing on the conversion district amendment for Jeffrey Crampton, 901 Pope Avenue, ZM-2016-03.
Good evening. This is a conversion district overlay amendment for 901 Pope Ave, proposed for 901 Pope Avenue. And just to give a brief overview on what a conversion district is, the purpose of the district is to stimulate adaptive reuse of existing non-residential multi-story buildings, such as this one, to increase the city's accessible base, expand business and employment opportunities. The conversion district provides an alternative concept for underutilized structures, while also balancing the general health, safety, welfare of the surrounding neighborhood, as many of these structures are located in and around residential neighborhoods. And the qualifications for a conversion district is that it be of a certain size, over 20,000 square feet, and it be built prior to October 1st, 1956. Property in question this evening, and again, as I mentioned earlier, is on Pope Avenue. It would be located south of the Rose Hill Cemetery and north of the Wilson Boulevard, and then just to the east of the CSX rail line that runs south out of town along South Potomac Street. Property is 3 acres in size. The building is just shy of 137,000 square feet and is currently used as a mixed-use building with a mix of residential and most apartments, as well as some business offices. Just a little background on the property itself. It was built circa 1890 as an industrial factory. The property was zoned industrial restricted in 1977 and still carries that underlying zoning today. The property received conversion district overlay status in 1991 to permit office uses, and that conversion district was amended again in 1998 to allow up to 12 apartment residential units. Today, the property contains the 12 residential units as well as approximately 11 businesses. The proposal before you this evening in this public hearing is an application filed by the owner, Mr. Crampton, who is here this evening, to amend the conversion district to add to the permitted uses that have already been previously put into place. That list includes tanning salons, retail, up to 5,000 square feet and 1 retail use for the entire building. That limitation is put in place, is being recommended because of the parking limitations on site, which I'll talk a little bit more in a minute. Hair, nail, skin stores, hair replacement services, dog grooming establishments, visual and performing art studios, catering kitchens, professional, scientific, technical services, except veterinary services, fitness and recreational sports centers, artist live workspaces, personal and household good repair and maintenance. Some of those items are worded very specifically because those are things directly out of our land management code. So that's why they're worded the way they are. Parking in a conversion district is required in accordance with the zoning ordinance. However, the Planning Commission may permit variation in the number of spaces required, as long as it's generally consistent with the plan. Currently, there are, give or take, about 44 parking spaces on site. Again, reason for that limitation on a retail wholesale use, one for the building up to 5,000 square feet, again, thinking of the parking constraints on site. The Planning Commission held its public hearing and reviewed this proposal, and at their meeting on November 9th, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of this conversion amendment with the following condition, that any trash dumpsters, either existing or proposed, that are located along the Pope Avenue side would have a dumpster enclosure added to it in accordance with the provisions in the Land Management Code. And in this picture, there is currently one dumpster that exists today that faces Pope Avenue and would fit that, the qualifications of that condition. And it's just the ones that face Pope Avenue. The other sides of the building don't really face adjacent residential neighborhoods. The west side of the building faces a railroad track, so that's why it was just specific for that side of the building. And then this is just a aerial map of the site. The property is outlined in yellow, and that lovely shade of green is just the building footprints showing the building in relation to the surrounding neighborhood. As with any conversion district amendment or any rezoning, or any overlay amendment rather, it's handled like a rezoning, a map rezoning, planning commission review, public hearing, recommendation mayor and council, and then you all are having your hearing and reviewed as well. And mayor and council shall approve this overlay district amendment, then the applicant would be required to submit a site plan that would be later approved by the city planning commission. At this time, I'd like to enter into the record the certificate of advertisement and the planning commission file by reference. Just to go over next steps real quickly, you're having your public hearing tonight. We're also recommending that you introduce the ordinance for the rezoning amendment, or for the conversion district amendment tonight as well. That would still allow this body to keep the record open for 10 days after this public hearing is concluded. We are scheduled to follow up with the mayor and council in work session on January 17th. Staff is, I should say, and then this would be presumably on for a vote for the regular session on January 31st for approval with modifications, or a denial. If it's approved, the conversion district amendment would take effect 30 days after the approval per state law. That is my presentation. Are there any questions?
Anybody in the council have any questions for Alex?
I do.
Go ahead.
On the first page, under additional use number 2, the retail and wholesale trade, you still have the language in there that says, unless all vehicle storage is indoors. That's the language that will remain?
Yes.
Okay, because in the applicant's section, it looks like they struck through that. So am I to assume that the planning commission overruled that requested strike through? If you go all the way to the back page, it looks like the applicant's letter struck, unless all vehicle storage is indoors.
Yes, I believe that may be, for the staff memo, that I will double check on, I believe that might be an oversight of the staff memo.
So,
The proposal would be, the actual applicant's proposal is what is stricken, include the strikeout on the attachment to the application.
and I wasn't party to the prior discussions on this, but I think that's a fairly important piece to confirm that the planning commission has either weighed in on that substantive change or not. In other words, if we were to go forward and we were to approve subsequent to that section, the way you've presented, you know what I mean, and the planning commission has weighed in on it as it's differently presented, I could see us back here trying to figure that out with the applicant.
Well, in reality, though, the strike-through, the way it's written, with it stricken out, would exclude any auto and other motor vehicle dealers, period.
Right,
Even if the storage was indoors, they couldn't do it.
that's correct.
So, okay.
I believe it was an I can double check that, but I believe it is an oversight on my staff memo on the first page. I believe the intent is the action is to be consistent with what the applicant actually proposed in his application.
So when I read this and it says excluding, it says retail and wholesale trade excluding auto and other motor vehicle dealers, what you're saying is then they can't be there at all,
That's correct.
even if they were able to do so entirely indoors.
Other motor.
In other words, if you read the first part, how they submitted it, and then you read it how you presented it, and I hear what you're saying, Lou, but if they were able to do it entirely indoors, then they'd
Right.
be able to do it.
Right.
So I think that has to be clarified.
Yeah, staff can double check on that. I'll have to go, but I'll have to take a look at that.
Okay. The second question is also under that section number 2, and it's just clarification. It says, this provision shall also include retail bakeries and retail confectionaries. I just want to make sure I'm reading that right. That's to be read that can occur, right? Not can't.
Yes, that is, again, taken directly from the land management code.
Okay.
It falls under the same category as what you see above. Again, it would be included in that retail and wholesale trade provision.
Okay, so those types of bakeries and confectionaries can occur?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next question is under item number 6. It says professional, scientific, and technical services. Is the definition of those types of allowances, could they be construed to include medical-related services?
No, that would be, all medical services would be handled under the, if you look at the NAICS coding system, that would be handled under ambulatory healthcare services. So we would interpret professional, scientific, and technical services being architecture, engineering offices, that sort of thing.
Okay. And then I think the last question I have is, in the staff report, it says, can the site be adequately served with public water and wastewater facilities? As some of the council and I have discussed previous meeting, it says water and wastewater services currently exist. This is a really big building that has been severely underutilized for a very long time. I'm just curious what occurs given these additional types of uses, which may be more utility intensive, if what we're saying there is interpreted to mean that there's adequate supply available. In other
Yeah,
words, would we
that's-
have to make the upgrades to make that happen?
Yeah, the adequate supply is available to serve the building. Most of the uses proposed would not be in a significant increase in wastewater allocation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of like, you're going from, I don't know what it was used for before, I think scrapping maybe. Going from that to a bakery or confectionery type business would certainly increase the use. So. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Alex? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to comment for this proposed?
Hi, I'm Jeff Crampton, owner of the building. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Still got the marble floors in the main entrance?
Yes,
The marble stairs?
still there. Yeah. Just so you know, I've owned the building for, I was actually a young man when I bought it, 30 years. And what we're doing here this evening is, every now and then we get a tenant that wants to come to the building, and it'll make them easier to get moved in quicker so that you can keep tenants and, things of that nature. And your answer about the utilities, we have plenty of utilities. It used to be a factory with 1,300 people work there, 3 shifts. There's a 2-inch copper water line, a 6-inch sewer line, and we've got not that we're gonna put anything in there like that. I could rent a lot more space there on the second and third floor, but I don't wanna over-rent it and ruin it and have not enough parking, too many people, and we've kept it at a pretty even keel the last 15 years, and as long as I'm around, I plan on it staying that way. It works better.
Right, yeah.
Okay?
Anybody else in,
Thank you.
speaking in favor? Anybody speaking opposed to this conversion district overlay? Nope. Alex, you got anything else? Okay, we'll leave the record open for 10 days. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is city administrator comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few announcements. First of all, our last meeting of 2016 tonight, so I'd like to wish Mayor and Council, city employees and citizens very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. City offices are closed on Friday the 23rd and on Monday the 26th. And I do want to announce that there will be no change in the collection of refuse or recycling for Christmas week or for New Year's, and that this is the last week for yard waste. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments, Mr. Elshire, we'll start with you.
The only comment I really have this evening is to thank city staff for efforts associated with the market the last month or so, as I think I've said in prior meetings in which we've discussed the issue. I think whether it was the last council or this one, we're interested in certainly trying and certainly exhausting the possibilities that exist there. Being there the last month or so definitely gives you a little more in-depth perspective, and just to let folks know they'll be open again this weekend. And I think, that there's certainly a sense of the vendors to try and make something of the space, and certainly an effort by staff to attempt those efforts, before we have those more realistic or dire discussions.
Mr. Corbin?
Just to echo Councilman Munson's earlier comments to Mr. Barnhart, thank you for what you're doing over at the ice rink. It's greatly appreciated. The work that you guys do over there is truly what makes Hagerstown a great place to live, work, and play. So thank you. And also thank you to Dr. Grammerman and Amy for investing in downtown Hagerstown. It's greatly appreciated. Hopefully it's been or is continued to be a positive transition for you guys. And please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if anything we can do to help. Also want to thank Mr. Crampton. I know he just left a minute ago, but again, for his investment in the Pope Avenue project. And then lastly, staff, thank you. Obviously being kind of new on the job here, I'd like to thank Donna and Valerie and Danny for all their help that they've provided and assistance here in this last month getting up to speed. So thank you.
Mr. Barnhart, I also wanted to say earlier, I grew up in the ice rink here. I was a figure skater my whole life, so the Hagerstown Ice Rink has a special place in my heart. So thank you for bringing another great program to our area. It's amazing what you've done. Also, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever it is that you celebrate. To everyone, to city staff, you guys have been great. And just two Hagerstown businesses that were in the news this week I wanted to draw attention to. One was Mike Fitzgerald received the Heritage Structure Rehabilitation Competitive Commercial Tax Credit. That's a mouthful. For 2017, it was presented by Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, so that's pretty cool, featuring the Professional Arts Building downtown. And also, Hagerstown-owned construction company I Can Build It is going to be featured on the FYI network for Tiny Home Nation. They were the builders of a tiny home. They drove to Texas. It's going to be featured January 28th. They're Hagerstown owned and operated, and I thought that deserves some kudos. So that's all I have tonight.
Mr. Messer?
I would certainly echo what everybody has said so far. And as far as Emily and Paul, I would say to you all, one of the nicest experiences you'll ever have when you get elected to city council is finding out what a fantastic professional staff we have on all levels. And as far as the second floor goes, you get treated like good president, and it's a very positive thing. And staff are just superb. They make us look like we actually have some idea of what we're doing, which is always a positive thing. And yes, we won't be back until after the first of the year, so to everyone, please, a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year's, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, and a happy anything else you do. Just be happy. Thank you.
Mr. Musk.
I would echo many of the remarks that have already been made and end with saying, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a happy and successful New Year.
And for me, everybody already said it all, so I'm just going to say Merry Christmas and have a very happy and safe New Year. We're going to move on now to the adoption, the approval of the minutes for November 1st, 15th, and the 22nd.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to adopt these rules of procedure dated.
Enough of minutes.
Oh,
We already did that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, may I make this point? I made a motion, but it was not the proper motion. I think I should probably make the proper motion for the adoption of the rules, if that's, it's okay with the council.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. I hereby move to adopt these rules of procedure dated December 20th, 2016. These rules and procedures shall apply to all meetings of the mayor and city council to be held by this administration and shall be in effect upon adoption of the mayor and city council.
Second.
Thank you.
So I'll ask again, are there any comments? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, back to the approval of minutes.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on November 1, November 15, and 22nd, all of 2016.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second, that.
Discussion. I'll add that for those who have not been informed on the consent agenda, there's currently only 4 things on there for this one. It's emergency repairs lab truck 11, program open space application, change order to install additional roofing to the Elizabeth Hager Center, and the purchase of a Ford F-550 dump truck with a salt spreader and snow plow, which hopefully we'll never have to use this season. Any other discussion?
It should also be noted for the new members that if there's something on the consent agenda that you don't agree with, it's a lot easier just to have a request to remove it from the consent agenda to be voted on individually, and then we can vote on the consent agenda with that move.
Yeah, but it'll be moved down under new business. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Unfinished business, approval of an ordinance 215A and 215B, bond reprogramming.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move to approve an ordinance amending and supplementing ordinance number 0-15-01, originally passed on 2/10/2015, approved on 2/10/2015, and effective on 3/13/2015, which together with a companion resolution served as authority for the issuance and sale of the 8.02 million City of Hagerstown Public Facilities Bonds, Series 2015A, tax exempt, and the 1.85 million City of Hagerstown Public Facility Bonds, Series 2015B, taxable, otherwise known as the 2015 bonds. With respect to certain of the original projects intended to be funded from 2015 bond proceeds, the city has achieved cost savings, cannot spend 2015 bond proceeds quickly enough to satisfy certain federal tax code requirements, or has determined not to fund such original projects either in the amount originally allocated to such projects or from 2015 bond proceeds at all. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend and supplement ordinance number 015-01 to reallocate a portion of the 2015 bond proceeds to finance or reimburse costs of additional public purpose projects of the city as identified in the attached, or to increase the amount of 2015 bonds proceeds originally allocated to certain original projects. Staff is hereby directed to work with bond counsel to take all necessary actions to proceed with and develop any resolutions and other documents necessary for the reprogramming of the 2015 bonds proceeds.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Introduction of an ordinance, conversion district amendment, 901 Pope Avenue, ZM 2016-03.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance for the amendment to the conversion district overlay, including the condition endorsed by the planning commission on property located at 901 Pope Avenue.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Introduction of an ordinance to quitclaim portion of alley 4-48.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for introduction of an ordinance making a determination that certain property, a portion of alley 4-48, is no longer needed by the city of Hagerstown for a public purpose and authorizing the execution of a quitclaim deed for the same.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Resolution to accept the offer of dedication of a portion of Meridian Drive.
I hereby move to approve a resolution to accept the offer of dedication of a portion of the newly constructed Meridian Drive, recorded among the plat records of Washington County, Maryland as plats number 7429 and 8067. The city shall commence maintenance of this street effective immediately, since the developer has submitted the proper one-year maintenance bond.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're in contract with NIST for the use of space at Elizabeth Hager Center.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for the approval of a resolution authorizing a rental contract between the National Institute of Standards and Technology and the City of Hagerstown. The rental agreement will allow NIST to utilize designated space in the Elizabeth Hager Center for emergency drills, and when an actual emergency prevents NIST from operating at their headquarters in Gaithersburg, Maryland. The agreement expires in December 29, 2017, and includes renewal options to extend the contract through 2021.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Approval of a contract dredging City Park Lower Lake.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of a contract with Edwin A. and John O. Crandell Incorporated of West River, Maryland, in the amount of $1,053,871 for the dredging of the Lower Lake and City Park, and set aside a 10% fund contingency. I further move for the approval of a change order with Balin Consultants for construction project management in the amount of $37,500. The project intent is to improve the ecology and appearance of the lake and create potential for additional future activities.
Second.
Discussion.
Just a note, since our last meeting and discussion on this, a couple of things. The first is I was able to pull up a good bit of research on the dredging, and I would note, consistent with our engineering staff's opinion, as it applies specifically to man-made structures, it is always better to dredge over time. Most of the negative attributes of dredging occur on natural inland and coastal areas where they continually remove the barrier systems. So I thought that finding that research, one, was helpful, and certainly encouraging to approve the project. The second is, though, I do believe that given the visibility of this project, the unknowns of this project, and the length of time in which this project will take place, I think that it's important to do a couple of things. One is, I think it's important to create something that allows folks either to get on the website or get a regular update of the project as it occurs, or at least have a direct contact through the process if there is any issues. I would hope that with this type of work and those uncertainties, if there is an issue, then we're able to have someone be able to contact the city, in some immediate fashion, especially given the unknowns of any subgrade issues that may affect foundations and things. And the second is, I still don't believe that the 10% funding contingency is adequate. I don't think that there's any opportunity at this time to adjust that, but I think at the end of the day, we'll be fortunate if that is the case.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, could I add that, as based on your suggestions last week, we have a meeting set up with anybody that wants to attend that has any concerns or questions about this project, and it's January 11th at 6 p.m., and we're going to have it at the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts in the Bowman Gallery, right there by the project. So anybody that's interested in this project at all, please come and we'll have a conversation about it.
And I'm sure that Aaron will make sure that that gets well publicized.
Right. And we'll also follow up on Councilman Alshar's suggestions.
And I'd further note the support of the Neighborhoods First group that is in that specific area, and I believe it's the largest Neighborhood First group we have in the city, and I also believe they are very effective in getting the word out too, so I certainly would work through them also. Thank you, Rodney.
Anybody else have any comments? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Approval of a donation of a vehicle from the Narcotics Task Force.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for Mayor and Council approval of a donation of a vehicle from the Narcotics Task Force. This vehicle will be used as a bait item and be deployed in locations in the city experiencing high rates of thefts of various items from motor vehicles. This is a donation and therefore no cost to the city of Hagerstown.
Second?
Any discussion?
Only, Mr. Mayor, I hope that, unfortunately, I think all the thieves out there probably aren't listening to us. I wish they were, because I wish they would know that there's a whole lot of bait items all around our town. So before they start thinking about taking something, maybe they should think that they're getting caught for taking a bait item. And I applaud the police for doing this. I don't think there's a whole lot of our residents who really realize that program is in existence. And Chief, I commend everybody who's responsible for it. I think it's been a very positive thing.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Approval of relocation of Hagerstown Fire Department Truck 1.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby approve permanently relocating and deploying the Hagerstown Fire Department unit known as Truck 1 from the unit block of West Franklin Street to the city-owned fire station 100 Eastern Boulevard. This move provides enhanced aerial ladder coverage, safer and more efficient fire rescue operations, and provides overall cost savings for service delivery.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make one comment, please. The chief gave me the opportunity to tour this facility a few days ago. I went over there and looked at it, and we went from top to bottom. And I know that there are a lot of volunteers there who have spent many, many years of their lives devoted to this facility, whose hearts are broken by this move because they've put so much time and effort into this place. I'd like to thank them, and I would like to thank the chief for taking me through, spending time to take me through, to see what we're actually talking about. So thank you, chief. Thank you, volunteers.
And Mr. Mayor, I would commend everybody who has anything to do with this. It was the right move, but it's not an easy move. It's something that tradition exists over there at Truck 1, and it is difficult for folks to give it up, but the folks that are giving it up are doing it for the betterment of the entire community, and I would commend everyone for that.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. With that, final piece of business, we are adjourned. Have a fantastic Christmas and New Year.
Merry Christmas, Don.
Happy Hanukkah.